There is something very special about Marella Explorer. I have a real affection for this ship, having spent nearly 6 months living and working on board as a deck cadet during the height of the pandemic back in 2020. She became more than just a ship to me. She was home during a time when the world had shut down. But sentimentality aside, how does Marella Explorer really measure up today? As an older cruise ship in an era of ever larger, more modern vessels, can she still compete? And with Marella Cruises announcing brand new ships arriving in 2030 and 2032, it begs the question, where does that leave a ship like Explorer, which has yet to undergo the big transformations that her Discovery sisters have recently enjoyed? When it comes to the design, decor and maintenance, Marella Explorer has some real strengths and a few frustrations too. Having worked on this ship during my time as a deck cadet, I know just how hard the deck crews work to keep her looking her best. I can honestly say that that dedication continues. You would really struggle to find a speck of rust anywhere on board. Considering the ship is pushing 30 years old, that is seriously impressive, and full credit to the deck crew and the engineers. As for the decor, there are no real wow factors here. It is a very understated ship, a far cry from when she launched as Celebrity Galaxy back in 1996. TUI and Marella have made some improvements over the years, like extending the balconies on deck 10 and converting many of the outside cabins on decks 8 and 9 into balcony cabins. But overall, I do feel they lost some of the ship's original charm in the process. The spa, for instance, once a real standout feature, complete with a luxurious hydrotherapy pool, that has gone. The solarium pool has also been filled in to create the Mediterranean dining area. Even the atrium, which should be the heart of the ship, feels underwhelming. Its main feature is a projected video wall, but honestly, the low resolution makes it feel more like a game of Minecraft than a centerpiece. A brighter, clearer video wall, or even some striking artwork, could easily lift this space and give guests a real sense of excitement as they board. Of course, some of these changes were necessary to offset the added weight from all the new balconies, but it does mean that certain facilities feel diminished, and that is a real shame. That said, the more muted decor does give Marella Explorer a homelier feel compared to the glitzier Discovery sisters or even Marella Voyager. And the passenger space ratio is very respectable, sitting at around 40.4 cubic feet per passenger. Compare that to something like P&O's Avia with just 28 cubic feet, and honestly, I know which ship we would rather sail on.
When it comes to cabins and suites aboard Marella Explorer, there is a good variety to suit different budgets and needs. For this cruise, we stayed in a large balcony cabin on deck 10, and that is what we'll be focusing on in this review. We're in 10006, which is a large balcony cabin on deck 10. We paid around £1,400 per person for this 7-night cruise in the Mediterranean, and whilst that does include flights with extra legroom, transfers and Marella's premium all-inclusive packages, it is not exactly cheap. You could easily cruise the Mediterranean with MSC, P&O, Costa for around half that price. Even when you add on one of their drinks packages, most of the time it wouldn't come close to what we paid on this cruise going into May.
The cabin itself is very much like the rest of the ship, a little bit bland. The decor is fine, but it is the practicality that lets it down. For a balcony cabin, it feels small, measuring around 173 square feet, compared to an industry average of around 200 square feet. Storage is actually pretty good, with plenty of drawers, shelves and hanging space. But there are just 3 plug sockets in this cabin, 2 European and 1 American, and none of them are British. That seems strange when you think about how Marella completely targets the British cruise market. There are also no plug sockets or USB ports by the bed, which definitely makes the cabin feel a bit outdated. Another disappointment is the removal of the fridge. Balcony cabins and below no longer have one, which is a shame, but this is something we're starting to see more across mainstream cruise lines looking to cut costs. The TV is supposed to be interactive, letting you watch movies on demand or book in dining venues, but for our entire cruise, it just says that Marella are working on it, which isn't great. The bathroom, though, is decent enough. There is a good amount of storage, some shelving, a nice sized shower with a glass door, and consistent water pressure. Unfortunately, there is often a bit of a smell of stagnant water in here, and at times sewerage, which sadly is not unusual for older ships like this. As for the balcony, this is where the cabin really stands out. Balconies on Marella Explorer are a decent size, but the large balcony cabins offer even more outdoor space. It is worth saying though, that inside, the living area is exactly the same as a standard balcony cabin. The difference is purely outside. You can actually see where the original teak decking ends and the new faux decking begins, showing how the balconies were extended when TUI took ownership of this ship. Most balconies also come with a hammock, which is a really nice touch. They are not quite as comfortable as the hammocks you get on Virgin ships, but it is still a really great feature for relaxing, and we really wish that more cruise lines offered them. We've heard quite a few passengers saying that they wish that there was a second sun lounger outdoors rather than just one, along with the 2 chairs and a small table, but that really comes down to preference. Just like the rest of the ship, the balcony is in excellent condition, and if you are considering booking, we would definitely recommend upgrading to a large balcony cabin like this one.
Get 50% off your first order when you subscribe to Sail Away magazine. Get the digital version for £3.95 and the printed edition for £6.95 every 2 months. Subscribe today at sailawaymagazine.com. Marella cruise fares include a variety of different snacks and meals across a range of venues, and there's no shortage of choice. Whether you're after something casual or a proper sit-down dinner, or even a bit of everything, there's a venue to suit most. But while the variety is good enough, not every venue delivers the same level of quality.
Right now I'm standing in Latitude 53, the main dining room here on Marella Explorer, and it really is a beautiful space. It's a 2-deck high venue located right at the aft of decks 5 and 6, and those massive windows at the stern mean it's flooded with natural light. It's definitely one of the most attractive spaces on the entire ship. But while we love the decor and the layout, don't go expecting the food to blow your socks off. The variety is decent enough, and when we saw shellfish bisque, truffle mac and cheese and lobster soufflé on the menu for Dress to Impress night, we did think, wow, you don't see this on P&O. Now to be fair, the bisque was actually pretty good, but the mac and cheese, honestly, it made a mugshot seem gourmet. And the lobster soufflé? Well, it tasted fishier than a penguin's picnic. And that's been the running theme throughout our meals here. Dishes that sound impressive, but don't quite deliver. That said, this is a TUI holiday. It's casual, it's easygoing, and for many, that's exactly what they want. And if you're coming on board and expecting fine dining and white glove service, you've only got yourself to blame.
Also tucked away in Latitude 53 during the evening is Vista, Marella's take on Italian dining. It's included in your cruise fare with a solid menu of Italian classics like arancini, pastas and risottos. The standout for us is the carbonara, made fresh at the table, though it does come with a £5 per person surcharge. The desserts are surprisingly good and actually feel a cut above the mains.
The Marketplace is Marella Explorer's buffet-style restaurant, and honestly, there aren't any thrills up there. The choice is limited, the presentation is awful, and the food itself just isn't that exciting. This is our least favourite eatery on the entire ship. If you've tried the kitchens concept on Marella Voyager, you'll know how much better that setup works. Even though the food doesn't change very much, at least you've got variety. Different counters, different styles, more flavours to explore. The Marketplace on here just feels a bit samey and a bit Wormwood Scrubs. Now we know, this is Marella. We're not expecting perfection, but you're here to watch a review, and guess what? We're giving you one. If you are familiar with our videos, you'll know we're not fans of the buffets on P&O ships, but the Marketplace on Marella Explorer makes the buffet on Arvia look like Harrods Food Hall.
Also included in your cruise fare is the Mediterranean, and we actually find ourselves coming back here a few times during the cruise. The pasta is decent, with a good selection of pasta types, sauces and toppings, so you can mix and match to build something you actually fancy. As an inclusive venue, we really don't have any complaints. It's quick, it's easy, and it does exactly what it says on the tin. On the other side of the Mediterranean, you'll find the tapas restaurant. By day, it's a casual lunch spot serving jacket potatoes, paninis and fajitas. By night, it transforms into a specialty venue. Most dishes including tapas and desserts are included in your fare, but the highlight is the hanging skewers, all at £11.95. They're worth every penny.
Located poolside, the Snack Shack is another included venue, and it's ideal if you're just after something quick and easy. You'll find things like burgers, hot dogs, fried chicken and fish and chips for lunch from 11 till 6 daily. It's nothing fancy, and to be fair, it's not pretending to be. It's grab and go food that's perfect for lunch by the pool or a quick bite between meals, so you don't have to lose your sun lounger. The quality's alright, the queues move fairly quickly, and it definitely adds to the relaxed holiday vibe that Marella Cruises does so well.
So that's the inclusive dining covered, and while there are definitely a few hit and misses, you're never short of choice. But if you fancy something a bit more special, Marella Explorer also offers a handful of specialty dining options. These come at an extra cost, but in most cases, the experience and the food really are worth it. So let's start with the Dining Club, the most expensive specialty restaurant on board, coming in at £39.95 per person. Now it's definitely a step up from the Silver Fork on Marella Voyager, which is all smoke, foam and mirrors without much substance. The Dining Club feels a bit more grounded, but for us it still doesn't quite hit the mark for a restaurant claiming to be a premium and luxurious dining experience. If you've ever had true fine dining, you'll know this doesn't fall into that category. The food is enjoyable, there's no denying that, but there's nothing particularly fancy or memorable about it. It seems that Marella are missing the mark in a few ways. A restaurant isn't luxurious because the dishes have foam and smoke as a feature. If dishes are arriving to the table with not enough seasoning, and if steaks are not being cooked to the diner's preference, then it isn't luxury. Likewise with service, staff are friendly as they are across the ship, but that's the thing, you're paying for a premium. You're expected a noticeable difference, and here there just isn't one. The service isn't elevated above what you'd experience in Latitude 53. It's fine, it's pleasant, but based on some of the superb meals we've had on other cruise ships, our dining at the Dining Club is rather forgettable. Surf and Turf comes in at £36.95 per person for an evening meal, and honestly, for the money, it's one of the better specialty restaurants on board. You've got a solid selection of steaks and seafood dishes, including a very decent tuna steak and a great range of sides to go with them. The lobster mac and cheese here is miles better than the slop they serve in Latitude 53, I'm pleased to say. You also get options like creamy mashed potato and proper truffle fries, which round things off nicely. The desserts hit the mark too, both in flavour and presentation. The whole place here has that Miller and Carter vibe, but at a bit more affordable price point. This is actually our 4th time trying Surf and Turf across 3 different Marella ships, and every time it's been consistently good, reliable, tasty, and well worth the upgrade if you're after a proper steak night at sea. Tucked away at the back of Surf and Turf is Corallar, Marella Explorer's Pan-Asian specialty restaurant. At £31.45 per person, it's one of the pricier options on board. And when you compare it to other Indian restaurants at sea, like Sindhu on P&O at around £21 per head, Saffron on Ambassador for £19.95, or Vasco on Fred Olsen for just £15, it starts to feel a bit steep, especially when in our opinion, it's actually the weakest of the lot. Now, we still enjoyed what we ate. It's not bad, but the biggest issue is the lack of authenticity. The whole experience just feels a bit mismatched. Yes, it's a Pan-Asian, but starting off with samosas and poppadoms and then moving on to sushi, followed by a fiery Indian curry and ending with green tea ice cream, it all feels a bit confused. The curries are made fresh and they've got a decent kick, but a lot of the other items, like the spring rolls, samosas, poppadoms, even the naan breads, taste very much like the sort of thing you could grab from Tesco. At £31.45 a head, and considering Corallar is significantly more expensive than the rivals on other cruise lines, we just expected a bit more. The last of the specialty restaurants on board is Umi Sushi. Located near the aft on Deck 6, it has a cover charge of £17.95 per person, which includes a mix of dim sum, sushi and cooked sushi rolls, all made fresh to order. We're not huge sushi fans, so we decided to give this one a miss, but for those who are into it, it seems like good value and offers a nice change from the usual cruise fare.
We often criticise cruise lines for not offering enough to do during the day, but we can't throw that criticism at Marella. Up on Deck 11, you've got 2 good-sized swimming pools and 3 hot tubs, perfect for relaxing on a sea day. The Ocean Spa also offers reasonably priced spa passes, giving you access to various saunas, steam rooms and relaxation areas. A nice little escape if you want some peace and quiet. There are daily movies in the cinema, port talks and the occasional lecture in the Broadway show lounge, plus quizzes and game shows over in the Squid and Anchor. But what really stands out is the energy and the enthusiasm of the entertainment team and the cruise director. That team works hard and it shows. There's always something happening around by the pool, live music, quizzes, even full-on deck carnivals. Whether it's a sea day or you're in port, you genuinely struggle to be bored on this ship. What's most impressive is that Marella are doing all this on a fraction of the entertainment budget compared to a big line like P&O. And yet, the atmosphere on board is miles better. It's lively, it's welcoming, and it really feels like everyone is enjoying themselves.
Your dream cruise, just a click away. From luxury liners to no-fi cruises, supercruises.com makes booking simple and stress-free. Book now at supercruises.com and set sail on the trip of a lifetime. Get up to 10% off when using the code SAILAWAY10. Terms and conditions apply.
We actually find ourselves doing a lot more in the evenings on this cruise than we usually do, and that's partly thanks to our friends Lizzie and Laura from Sisters on the Seas, but also because there's just more variety here than you tend to get on other budget-friendly lines. There's always something happening. Game shows in Squid and Anchor, like Who Wants to Be a Morellionaire, which is a bit of a tongue twister if you've just bought the premium drinks package, plus West End style shows and tribute acts in the Broadway show lounge, movies in the cinema, and even the big screen by the pool, weather permitting. You've also got live music most nights in Indigo and the lounge, which really adds to the atmosphere around the ship. Now, are the theatre shows stand out? Not really, but this is Marella. I'm not expecting celebrity or Virgin levels of production here. Some shows do feel a bit amateur, with limited effects and barely any costume changes. We've seen shows on other lines with over 20 costume changes in a single performance. On here, sometimes you're lucky to get one. That said, it's still entertainment. And let us just say, the performances seem to get even better after a drink. One thing Marella really gets right is service. In fact, there are very few cruise lines that can beat them when it comes to how friendly and genuine the crew are. The service on this ship really wouldn't look out of place on an ultra luxury line like Silversea or Regent, which would cost you around 5 times the price. Everyone you meet, from the captain to the stewards, the waiters, even the security team on the gangways when you're getting on and off the ship, they'll go out of their way to say hello and ask you how your day's going and start a conversation. It's that personal touch that really adds to the Marella Explorer's overall appeal. It gives the ship a warm and familiarity, and honestly, it makes you want to come back time and time again.
Something we can't praise quite as highly is the Wi-Fi on board. The packages on offer are limited, dated, and honestly, a bit disappointing. Unlike most cruise lines these days, there's no unlimited option. Instead, you're paying by the megabyte. You've got 400 megabytes for £20, 2 gigabytes for £40, 4.5 gigabytes for £65, and the biggest package, where you get 8.5 gigabytes, will set you back £99. When you compare that to cruise lines like Ambassador, who offer unlimited Wi-Fi for just £17 per day, Marella's offering really doesn't stack up against competition. Now, for plenty of people, being offline during a cruise is part of the appeal. But for some of us, especially those who run their own businesses or need to stay connected, going without isn't an option. And these limited, expensive Wi-Fi plans are enough to put us off doing a longer sailing with Marella, as we are too reliant on having access to internet. While the Wi-Fi packages definitely don't offer great value on the whole, we think Marella delivers exceptional value for money.
Yes, your cruise sail will probably cost more than what you'd pay with the likes of P&O, MSC or Costa, but when you take everything into account, it really does stack up. You're getting great service, a wide variety of dining options, drinks are included as standard, plus flights and transfers are all bundled in. When you weigh that all up, how can you go wrong? Now, we will say the drinks menu isn't what it used to be. It's been slimmed down quite a bit since we started cruising with Marella, but if you upgrade to the premium drinks package, which works out about £12 per day, you get access to a much broader range of around 100 different drinks to choose from, including specialty teas and coffees at the coffee port on deck 6. The only thing that still baffles us is the bottled water isn't included, not even with the premium drinks package, which just feels like an odd omission.
It's also a bit disappointing that there is no access to premium spirits and wines, except for the dining club, which does have premium bottles of wine available. If bars had this availability, I know that we would have spent a lot more money on board, as the wines included as standard and in the package were not to our taste. When we come on a future Marella cruise, we've already said that we'll bring our own wine from home and just pay the corkage rather than us having to keep popping to the dining club each and every evening and buying a £60 bottle of wine and walking through the ship with an ice bucket like some weirdo. You can take the boy away from Holland America, but you can't take Holland America out of the boy.
So can Marella still compete in a world of bigger, flashier, more modern ships? Absolutely. We love the character of this ship, the personality, the warmth, the friendliness you feel the moment you step on board. Her decor might be understated, but there's something incredibly homely about her, and that counts for a lot in our book. We'd be surprised if Marella gave Explorer the kind of full-scale revamp that her Discovery sisters have had, and honestly, we don't think she needs it. With 2 new ships already confirmed for 2030 and 2032, it makes more sense for Marella to invest their money there. But that does leave Explorer in a bit of a grey area. She's not going anywhere just yet, but if we were to hear in a few years that she'd been sold to another cruise line, it wouldn't come as much of a shock. So if you're thinking about sailing on her, do it now while you still can, because while her future might be uncertain, her charm, her spirit, and the experience she offers are very much alive and well in 2025.